So in their campaign against the Oklahoma Personhood Bill, pro-choice organizations have basically brought forth 4 primary arguments. Now, the first argument is, of course, that it would restrict abortion, but this isn't going to gain them any political points in Oklahoma because Oklahomans want to restrict abortion. We're an overwhelmingly pro-life state. So they've more or less abandoned that approach and instead turned to proliferating falsehoods about what exactly this piece of legislation will do. Now, the first falsehood they have proliferated is a claim that the Oklahoma Personhood Bill will ban most types of contraception. Specifically, they say that it will ban birth control pills, emergency contraception, and intrauterine devices, IUDs. Now, in my previous upload, I demonstrated that this was not the case. Essentially, they argued that these types of contraception work by preventing implantation and thereby starving to death the newly formed prenatal human specimen, the blastocyst. But this isn't true. That's not how these forms of contraception work, and there is no evidence to say that they have an anti-implantive effect. In fact, in most cases, there is evidence which clearly shows that they do not have an anti-implantive effect. So, at best, this is an example of poor research. At worst, it is an outright lie. Now, the other 2 arguments have claimed that it will criminalize women for miscarriages and that it will ban in vitro fertilization. But if you've actually read this piece of legislation, you will find that it contains language which very specifically says that it cannot be employed for those purposes. In fact, it also contains language which very specifically states that it cannot be used to ban contraception. So rather than getting into a huge argument and explaining the science of what exactly goes on with contraception, in vitro fertilization, and spontaneous miscarriages, or anything along those lines, I'm just going to read the text of this piece of legislation. It's like 3 pages long, so there is no excuse for anybody out there to not know what this piece of legislation says. You can, in a couple minutes, completely educate yourself. So I'm going to read this for you, and then I'm going to link a website which will keep you updated, even if you don't want to watch my uploads. So, the piece of legislation in question starts out, "Be it enacted by the people of the state of Oklahoma." Section 1. New law. A new section of the law to be codified in the Oklahoma Statutes is Section 1-750 of Title 63, unless there is created a duplicate in numbering, reads as follows. This act shall be known and may be cited as the Personhood Act. The Oklahoma Legislature finds that the life of each human begins at conception. Unborn children have protectable interests in life, health, and well-being, and the natural parents of unborn children have protectable interests in the life, health, and well-being of their unborn child. The laws of the state shall be interpreted and construed to acknowledge on behalf of the unborn child at every stage of development all rights, privileges, and immunities available to other persons, citizens, and residents of this state. As used in this section, unborn child or unborn children shall include all unborn children or the offspring of human beings from the moment of conception until birth at every stage of biological development. Nothing in this section shall be interpreted as creating a cause of action against a woman for indirectly harming her unborn child by failing to properly care for herself or by failing to follow any particular program of prenatal care. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit contraception or in vitro fertilization. The authority to regulate in vitro fertilization procedures is reserved by the legislator. Section 2. This act shall become effective November 1st, 2012. And this is, of course, not the final version of the bill. It's just the most recent version of the bill. There are possibly going to be some additional amendments in the conference committee, but in general, what is contained in this bill is pretty secure. It's very rare for amendments to be put in committee and then removed in conference committee. It's much more common for additional amendments to be added. So it's quite possible, for example, that the conference committee will add in an amendment saying that women will not be punished or held responsible for obtaining an abortion in certain circumstances or something along that effect. But we do know, based on the most recent form of this piece of legislation, that it will not be used to restrict contraception, in vitro fertilization, or to criminalize women for spontaneous miscarriages. So pro-choice organizations need to start getting their facts straight and either do research or just be more honest. Thank you.